morning, good afternoon, guys. We're back for another Geek Tavern. As always, it's me, Sean. I'm joined by Mike.
Hello.
And Aaron.
Hey.
And this week we are talking about Mike's recommendation, Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness, and screw Star Trek Beyond.
I still haven't seen that one.
I like that one, though.
I'll probably end up liking it.
Not as much as these two.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do like it.
We just didn't have time to go over it. We're recording this a little earlier today because, this week, I guess I should say, because Aaron and I are going to be out of town, so that's why we kind of rushed this one a little bit. We didn't get to the third one, but that's okay.
I did watch Beyond, though.
Oh.
It was on Prime, and I just popped it on like while I was doing stuff.
If I knew that, we could have impromptu did it, but I did not know that. So
it's fine. We weren't really missing much.
Yeah.
These are the two balls to the wall action Star Treks.
This is basically most of my Star Trek knowledge.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot in here. So,
Yeah.
like, as someone who does know a lot of Star Trek,
Like, I know little
there's
bits.
a lot in here.
Little bits and pieces. I mostly watched Next Generation growing up, but like I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
So
See, the thing with Star Trek is, and I thought about this the other day, I've watched, like, a lot of the original series, like, some of the best episodes and everything, and I watched almost all of Next Gen, and, like, a few others, but, like, if someone were to come up to me and be like, hey, remember the episode this, blah, 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 like in Galaxy Quest? I'm like, no. I vaguely remember what you're talking about, but do you realize how many episodes of this show there is? Do you know how many episodes blend together because they just are, like, day-to-day things?
I mean, I don't know how people do that in general.
I don't know how you remember, like, episodes like that, where they're like, oh, it's in season 5, and it's like, yeah, but how?
Like, I went through Friends twice within a year, and I couldn't tell you what.
I've watched
what.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia probably, like, 6 times. I'm not going to be able to tell you the number of an episode. I might be able to tell you what season it's in, and I can tell you the event that happened in it, but, like, I don't understand how people, like, memorize Star Trek. It's like, there's a lot of information in there.
Yeah.
You got the name right of that episode from our Galaxy Quest episode, whatever it was. It was the time travel one where because we were talking about the Omega-13.
Oh, yeah. What was the episode?
Where they have, like, the time loop that they
keep
getting destroyed.
Yeah,
you got the name of that episode right? Because I looked it up.
Oh, what was it called? Now I can't remember it. See? No, continue. It'll come to me. I'll shout it. I'll blurt it out later on.
But this is like the entirety of my Star Trek knowledge.
Yeah.
Basically.
Cause and effect.
Yes.
That's what it was.
I never really watched any Star Trek before this. I've always watched, like, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings whenever I was growing up.
Yeah.
But like, I knew enough about like the crew of the original, like Kirk and Sulu, all those guys, Spock. So, like, I don't know. I thought that, like, these characters, the people that they got to play them, I thought they were perfect.
Yeah.
And that could just be me because I don't know the original guys.
No,
but
honestly,
I feel
like, from watching the original series, they could not have got... This is like a Marvel casting. You could not get better people to play the roles.
I'll forget half of them, so let me pull it up. But, like, that's one thing I wanted to talk about was the cast. Like, I think this is before they were all popular, but there's a lot of people in here that went on.
Simon Pegg was kind of popular at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know who he was until
This was
like
kind
Star
of
Wars.
Yeah, like,
Like-
this is kind of the rise of Chris Pine from the
for
original Star Trek from 2009.
Right.
And Zachary Quinto went on to... Well, he was in Heroes before this, but he went on to do a lot more stuff.
JJ was involved with Heroes, wasn't he?
Probably.
So I think that's why he cast him as Spock. But yeah, everybody works perfectly in these roles.
Well, and obviously Carl Urban. I mean, was in all kinds of stuff before this, so I'd say he was probably the most famous one out of all of them.
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, it's not very long. Like
Eric Bana was also in that movie.
Yeah.
What I say when So at the beginning of the movie, I mean, we could just jump right into it.
Yeah.
It's Kirk's father, George Kirk, is on the Kelvin, and they
Played by Chris Hemsworth.
Played by Chris Hemsworth, yes. And they encounter a it's like a lightning, they call it a storm in space. And it's a wormhole that opens up, and Nero, played by Eric Bana's ship, comes through, and they attack the Kelvin, and George dies by sacrificing himself to get everyone else off the ship, because manual is the only way to pilot the ship. Autopilot won't engage. And he has to, like, ram the ship into it, and it does absolutely nothing. I mean, it's a giant mining ship, so it just explodes on impact. But I made the joke. I was like, hey, Hulk versus Thor.
Yeah.
Because Eric Bana was in that awful Ang Lee Hulk movie.
Oh, okay.
So, obviously, for... like you said, you haven't watched much of the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, or original series, not original
trilogy.
I don't know. I
watched 10 movies over COVID.
But yeah, so we don't know much about the original series. So, like, Nero coming back from the future, and, well, that's just, like, changing things immediately.
Yes, so
Kirk dying is, like, not something that happens in the original series.
So
see, those are all things that I wondered.
So these movies, the three, we're only talking about the two, but the three that exist under this umbrella are not at all in part with any of the other Star Treks. Like, some people who don't understand it will go...
Are the rest supposed to be connected?
It's like a divergent timeline.
This is called the Kelvin timeline, named after the ship.
Okay.
So that moment is where the timeline completely splits and goes off in a completely other direction. So this is a whole other series with the same characters, but it's a different timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So none of the stuff that happens from Star Trek the Motion Picture... on through Nemesis. None of that happens.
So even like the Wrath of Khan.
Wrath of Khan is in a separate timeline.
Okay, but
which is
I'll get to it whenever we get to.
It's separate, but it has the Spock from that time.
Yes.
Yeah,
correct.
I'll get to it whenever we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so even like Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery are completely not.
They're not in the Kelvin timeline. No.
So it would be interesting. I don't think that they're gonna like expand upon this timeline.
No, probably not.
But it would be cool if they like moved further in like the next generation
and
like,
had James McAvoy play.
Oh yeah,
play Picard.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it would be cool, but I'm a normie when it comes to this. So
yeah.
No, it would be cool because like there are all those what they're called nexus points, aren't they? Yeah. So like there's constants in the space-time continuum. So it'd be cool if they actually did do like a next gen type of thing.
Like, see the alternate version of...
I think that this was kind of testing the waters with Star Trek fans, because they're, like, a rabid fan base. Oh, yeah. Especially, like, fans of The Next Generation. They're, like, insane. So, like, if they even, like, dared to touch it, like, in this new timeline, I think that there would be, like, crazy upheaval.
Yeah.
Star Trek 2009 was producers and JJ going, how do we make... And, like, they had, like, a Star Wars and Star Trek, and they're like, how do we make this? Because they're gonna buy this if we make it more like this. And they did.
There was definitely a lot more action than I remember. Like,
I mean, and all the old Star Trek movies, they're very action-heavy, but, like, it's the way that this is directed and shot and the production value behind it. Not that they were cheap movies that they made. They were expensive movies, but there's a whole different feel.
I was going to say they were part of that time.
Yeah, and plus, there hadn't been a Star Trek movie in, like, over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, no, I take that back. Probably, like, 5 years or so, but... CBS is never going to lose. CBS and Paramount are never going to give up the license for Star Trek.
Oh, no.
Because they will run that series till it's dead.
We kind of just glossed over the plot of the movie, but it's basically just Admiral Pike. Is he Admiral at the time?
No, he's not Admiral.
So Captain Pike is convincing Kirk to join Starfleet, and then we follow Kirk's journey as joining Starfleet, and it's basically just assembling the crew that everybody knows from the original series, and Kirk helming the Enterprise for the first time. Because Nero wants to take vengeance on Spock because he was in some ways responsible for Romulus being destroyed. So he comes back from the future and destroys Vulcan, which is another thing that a lot of people who are Star Trek fans were like, oh, okay, Vulcan is just gone now in this timeline. But yeah, I don't know. I think it works well, especially with the scene where Kirk has to like provoke Spock, and like Spock Prime telling him, he's like, I just watched my planet be destroyed. I am emotionally compromised. Like, you're going to be able to get a rise out of me.
Yeah. And sure enough, he does to take control of the. Which is funny, like that Bones, like at that moment, Bones is like Kirk's best friend, one of his best friends. Between Spock and Bones, through the series, they're the best of friends.
I would say Spock isn't his friend in the first movie, really.
No,
by the end of it.
Yeah, by the end of it. But like Bones has always been like Kirk's friend. So I found it funny when he gets the chair, and they're like, wait a minute. They're like, who's captain now? And they're like, Pike made Kirk first officer. And Carl or Bones is like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, he's like, oh, thanks for the confidence there, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence. Well, yeah, because Kirk is undermining Spock's plan at that point to apprehend Nero. They were going to. Spock's plan is to go back to Earth to rally Starfleet to come, like, protect different Starfleet stations, because he basically said, Nero said he was going to destroy Starfleet because they're responsible for not being able to save Romulus. And Kirk is like, no, we've got to go back and save Captain Pike, and we've got to, like, board their ship. So that's where the differentiating viewpoints come from.
Yeah, Kirk's very much save everybody, you know.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of like his arc through this movie and the second movie. That's kind of like the launching pad of the second movie. It's like he saves everybody. That's what Kirk does.
Yeah,
he doesn't follow the rules necessarily, but he saves everybody.
Yeah,
to the scrutiny of a lot of people, I guess.
We do get a glimpse at one thing that's talked about in the original Star Trek movies is Kirk cheating the Kobayashi Maru test, which, for those of you who don't know, the Kobayashi Maru test is a captain's test of the no-win scenario, how you react in that type of situation. And Kirk doesn't believe in the no-win scenario. So he reprogrammed the subroutines, which I mentioned it to you. I was like, that's so stupid, because then it can just be proven that you cheated. When why don't you like the way that he acted, because he was like all nonchalant about it. He's like, nah, it's fine. Like, yeah, we'll just, do that. Like, at that point, you're telling them, yes, I'm cheating.
Right. Like,
why wouldn't you just like continue to like act as professional manner as possible, and then when the system glitches, you like say something, and then they're like, the shields aren't up, and it's like, they're not, and it's like, no, it's like, okay, go, fire proton torpedoes on all of them, and it's like, why would you not like follow in that? Because then it's not, it doesn't look like you cheated. It's just like, oh, happenstance. I beat it. Wow, it's crazy. And then they're like, yeah, that is crazy, but we're going to give it to you because, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, he's just eating an apple.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not taking it seriously at all.
Not at all.
Actually, there's a reason he's eating the apple. That comes in Wrath of Khan. There's a moment where they're talking about Spock and him basically do the same thing where they cheat Khan into thinking something else, and then they do the switcheroo to get everybody back on the ship. And when Kirstie Alley's character says something to him, like, she's surprised like that they were able to like get him to believe the lie. And they're in this whole big like underground thing that they made with the Genesis capsule, and it has like fruit and shit like there, and he's eating an apple, and he says, I don't like to lose, and like so I'm like, oh, that's the nod to that.
Well, speaking of that, as a normie, I thought that the fan service, as you will, because I mean I know enough about Star Trek, osmosis in pop culture, like the Bones where he's like, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a whatever," like all that shit.
Torpedo technician.
Yeah, all this like fan service that they have, like in the first movie, like whenever all those characters are introduced, they have like their catchphrase or their their one-liners.
Got a blast.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, or like whenever Bones is first introduced, he's like freaking out because he is afraid of flying, and it's like, oh, what's he chill down to his bones or something?
No. He says, my wife took half the planet in the divorce.
Oh, yeah.
She only left me my bones.
Yeah.
I was like laughing about that.
Yeah, I mean,
about that line.
Like, I think that's funny because,
It is funny, but it's like, it's almost like he should have been like, she took everything in the divorce, all she left me was my bones. Like, it just like look straight into the camera, and then it pauses, and it's like bones, and like spells it out, like an Inglourious Bastards type of like,
yes. Like, underneath bones.
That's the James Gunn version.
That's right.
But like shit like that, and like Scotty, like his, beat me up or whatever, all that. I enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of Scotty, the one thing
Scotty?
what I don't like about his introduction, like I think he's my favorite character.
He's a good character.
In both of these movies, but
Especially
probably the third one too. But they're marooned Kirk on this
Delta Vega.
Yeah, Delta Vega. And so
why do I remember Star Trek shit, but I can't remember anything else?
So they maroon Kirk there, and he's rescued by Spock Prime, and they go to the Starfleet outpost that's like 14 kilometers away, and it's manned solely by Scotty and
Deep Roy.
Yeah, and his imp friend.
I don't even know what his name is. Does he have a name? He keeps calling him Wee Man.
Yeah, he does
Wee
have
Man.
a name. I don't know what it is. It's something strange, but it's manned by them, and he's there because he accidentally, presumably, murdered his fleet admiral's dog.
Oh, yeah.
Because he said that he could, like, transwarp
beaming, yeah. Where's that dog? I'll let you know when I see it. I do feel bad about that, though.
The one thing I don't like is that Spock is like, oh, you're Montgomery Scott. You're responsible for the creation of the transwarp equation. And he's like, oh, see, I knew. It'll come to me one day, and then Spock just gives it to him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
But he's worried about, like, messing up other stuff.
Yeah. I wish that, like, Spock would have, I wish that Scotty would have just, like, came to it somehow. Because in the second one, he's like, he stole my transwarp equation, and he's using it to, attack Starfleet. And it's like, well, you didn't really come up with it. You were just giving it.
You were kind of handy.
Like, it is yours from a different timeline. Like, you have the capabilities of creating it.
Yeah.
But,
maybe,
like, it wasn't yours.
Yeah.
Is how I feel about it.
Maybe Spock was like, oh, yeah, well, he, like, comes up with it 5 minutes from now, and he's like, well, whatever.
he's on the brink of finding it out anyway. Might as well just hand
Close
it over.
enough. You got it.
That's, like, the one part about this movie that I just don't really care for. Because it cheapens Scotty's character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, even not knowing anything. Like, I was like, really? You just gonna give it to him?
Yeah, he probably still would have come to it.
I agree,
yes.
but
Yeah.
I agree. It's just that in this instance, it's just like, oh, here you go. here's your entire character relevance.
Well, I feel like he was Spock in that situation too. You're like, there's no other way out of here.
Yeah,
I literally have to give you this, or else shit's gonna go.
I fully understand
completely
why it was done. I feel like it could have been better.
Yeah.
Going back to the casting a little bit, we have Gamora.
Oh yeah,
We do.
I don't know how to say her last
Zoe
name.
Saldana.
Saldana.
She was also in Avatar the same year.
Yeah, I was telling Aaron, I was like, Zoe Saldana's just made a career of playing space aliens.
Yeah.
Except Uhura's a human.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
but-
In space, though.
Yeah, she is in space, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was crazy.
She literally has made her entire career off of just sci-fi and superhero.
And comic book movies.
Yeah.
Because she's in The Losers as well.
That's right, yeah. I don't think I know her from anything else other than movies like that. Must just be in her contract. She's like, I only do sci-fi and comic. If you mix the two, perfect. But
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was pretty crazy.
I like the introduction of Sulu whenever he's like obviously not supposed to be there because he's like filling in for some other pilot, and he's like, and they're like, "Is there a problem, son?" He's like, "I don't know, sir. I've done everything I can." And Spock is like, "Did you remove the
inertial dampener.
Inertial dampeners?" He's like, "Beep beep beep." All right,
Ready to go.
and then, like, aside from that instance, he's like a completely capable character the rest of the movie.
Also, that hiccup saved them.
Oh, that's true.
Because they would have been killed by Nero had they come out with
they
the
would
rest
have been
of the
destroyed.
Armada.
They would have been
Oh,
destroyed
right,
by
right,
the rest
right.
of the Starfleet Armada. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Sulu's little hiccup saved them, actually.
So, the only thing I can think of when I see, his name is John Chow.
Yeah, John Chow.
He was in American Pie.
Oh,
He was the MILF guy. MILF.
Was it?
He's in Harold and Kumar.
Yeah. I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, he plays Harold.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's all I can think of when I see
Yeah, they made him gay in this universe.
They did.
As a Easter egg of George Takei being gay, I guess.
But in all actuality, Zachary Quinto
Zachary Quinto is a gay man.
is actually gay in real life.
Huh.
Just happy Pride Month, I guess.
Is that...
It is Pride Month.
Is, where was that explored?
Beyond.
Oh, in Star Trek Beyond.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, yeah. Sulu has a husband in that movie.
Okay.
He also has a daughter, which is consistent with the normal timeline. Because she ends up as the pilot of the NCC 1701B, which is the ship that it's in Star Trek Generations. Alan Ruck is actually the captain of it, and Kirk, Scotty, and McCoy are all brought aboard. Oh, and Chekhov to christen it on its maiden voyage, and she's the pilot on that one.
Speaking of Chekhov, I feel like we'd be remiss not to mention
Yeah.
The late Anton Yelchin.
What a fantastic actor. It's a very big shame what happened to him.
Yes.
I love...
He was a perfect casting for Chekhov.
I love all of his scenes.
Yeah.
He's in the second movie. He's kind of relegated to being a background character. Same goes for Star Trek Beyond too.
Engineering.
Yeah,
It's just the engineering guy.
but he's
Chekhov, you're an engineer.
I mean, he saves the day in that movie too. But he's
Was it right after the third one?
Mhm.
that he passed?
like it was like pretty much right before the movie released.
Oh,
It was,
okay. See, I knew there was something. I wasn't sure if he was in the third one or not. Because
He is
I
in
knew
the
it
third
was
one.
around that time.
yeah, it's
It
a
makes
big
me
shame.
wonder if that's why they didn't do a fourth one.
Maybe
Because they were like,
Yeah.
we can't replace him, you know.
Yeah, they could be.
I don't know. They could have done something still. It makes me sad they didn't do a fourth one.
I feel like JJ's moved on at that point. He got to direct Star Wars.
Got to ruin Star Wars.
Well, we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
Nah, it's okay. It's
It
neither.
started at... I don't even write that off as his fault.
Nah.
No. I agree.
Anyway.
It's not his fault.
Back to the plot of the movie here.
Yeah.
Where we were at.
Well, we've kind of been
at
bouncing around.
Yeah, we were
but-
at the Armada. The Armada of Starfleet shows up to help.
to save Vulcan.
Yes, and they're already too late because the Narada, the ship that Eric Bana and his crew are on, obliterate 90% of Starfleet's fleet.
And that kind of like prompted this new trope that kind of happens in sci-fi movies where they come out of warp in the middle of a fucking battle
It
scene.
looks cool.
It is cool, but like just for like you'd think that they'd have the technology to be like, oh, we're about to be diving into some trouble here, and like decide to come out of warp a few kilometers away instead of like literally the middle of a battlefield.
Right.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I'll grant it that. But it's been done like crazy now after
Yeah.
that. Just like explosions everywhere.
All the other technology they have, they can't figure out what they're warping into.
Yeah.
It's like driving down a road that has been washed out and you just don't know, and you just like show up and you're like, what? Like, you go over it. But you hit the
Where'd
brakes.
the road go?
You hit the brakes or you bottom out to where you actually don't go over it. And you're like, oh, I wish I'd seen that coming.
But Kirk and Sulu, as well as some other guy, are tasked with
Oh, a red shirt.
diving onto the drill that the Nero's ship is using to drill into the metal.
Which is
Vulcan.
also knocking out communications.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it
is
blocks
like-
communications and drills a hole.
Yeah. Big asshole.
So that they dive onto the platform, and the red shirt is all
Decimated.
cocky,
Yeah.
and he's the one carrying the charges to destroy the thing.
And he opens a chute too late.
Extremely too late. Like they were like 100 meters,
1,500 meters
Yeah.
up above.
and then
pulled
he
their
waits
chute.
till 1,000
Yeah,
meters.
he waits till 1,000 and pulls his, and then gets caught. His chute gets caught, and then he just gets
sucked
like
into
swung and sucked right into the.
Well, he lands on. Doesn't he land on the platform and then like his chute goes to lay
I mean,
down?
he lands, but I mean, he hits it like hard. And
Yeah.
then his chute.
and then he just rolls,
But the chute
and then
gets
the chute
pulled into
catches,
the-
and then
yeah.
he gets pulled in.
That
yeah.
reminds me of a scene from not Falcon and Winter Soldier, but Captain America Winter Soldier, when the Winter Soldier kicks or he rips the wings off Falcon and he's falling. He like rips his parachute and then he like lands after 2 feet. It's like your legs would be fucking broken.
Yeah,
dude.
he pulls his chute at like 6 or no, he was falling at terminal velocity, and then he pulled his chute at like 20 feet up and just lands like softly and tumbles. And I was like, you would not, your whole like from here to your pelvis would just be shattered.
Yeah.
But that scene just reminded me of that because it's like, oh, they were like thousands of feet up and they pulled their chutes and you waited probably like below 1,000 feet too, or 1,000 meters, and then he just like dies.
He did, because he was like, no, like it's good. They're like, pull your chute, and he's like, no, I got it.
Were
It's like,
they?
oh, yeah, okay.
Were they 1,000 from that platform?
From the
or
From the platform?
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they were
Yeah,
talking about.
from the, no, because
Yeah.
Sulu and Kirk fall for quite a long time, so I don't think that they were only 1,000 meters away
Right,
from the
okay,
surface of the
okay.
planet.
And then their chutes get caught too, and Sulu almost ends up the same fate as the red shirt.
Yeah, which that's Chekhov's big moment of the movie is he triangulates their falling and is able to warp them back onto the ship.
Yeah, because whoever's controlling and transport, they're like, I can't lock onto them while they're moving. And then he's like, I can do that, and like ran down there and got it all. Yeah,
And then he's not able to do that when.
to save his mom.
Yeah, to save Spock's mom.
Well, he does.
He had her locked, but
She fell. It was like she was like about to warp, and then she like.
Oh,
fell.
so he couldn't like redo the warp.
Yeah, she probably like fell into the core of the planet before he was able to get to her. Or
Okay.
something.
Okay.
That was.
and also probably from the debris, there was probably too much.
Oh yeah, like the
interference,
planet was
actually.
just collapsing.
Yeah. Okay. I get that.
Yeah, so Spock loses Winona Ryder, and yeah, he's big sad now.
Yeah. We talked about Kirk being marooned and then getting back onto the Enterprise, which that was a great scene. With
Oh.
Scotty being like,
Can we talk about real quick the 3 fucking Vulcan kids
oh yeah,
who bully Spock?
yeah,
Like it's like 3 nerds walk up to you and they're just like, it's like your mom is human, Homo sapien, like, and they're just like saying shit, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's so-
I knocked these kids out.
it's
Yeah.
so weird. Like trying to get an emotional response out
Which
of
is
him.
so weird. It's weird for the Vulcans, like, to begin with.
Yeah,
Like, I
like,
get
why-
it. You want to make him more relatable, but at the same time, it's like, what Vulcan kids are going around bullying other, like, Vulcans? And that's part of the... I'll bring it up again, but that just made me think about the Klingons, too. How they're an advanced species, yet they act like barbarians.
Yeah.
They have such advanced technology, and yet they just want to, like, bash skulls in. And it's like, how did you even reach this level?
Yeah.
How did you make warp how did you make vehicles that go at warp? Yet you like stand here and like you look like you should have a mutton leg in your mouth. Like
Yeah, they're straight up Vikings.
I think that Khan explains in the second movie that they don't have warp capabilities because
they don't yet.
Yeah.
They will get it, but
regardless.
yeah.
I forget what I was just about to say. Oh yeah, the scene whenever Scotty and Kirk beam back onto the Enterprise and he's like sucked into the
oh yeah, the hard water.
Radioactive water.
Yeah, it's
too,
hard
right?
water.
So like, we'll get to that scene in the second movie, but you think that Scotty would be like dying of radiation poisoning because he's like, I was like, that would be highly contaminated water because it's like going through the core. It's like cooling the core, but like yeah, it'd be just as contaminated as the core would be.
Would that be the water before it's contaminated?
Oh, that's possible.
Yeah. Before he gets sucked into.
Yeah, before he gets sucked in.
Before he either drowns or gets sucked in.
But yeah, there's a lot of great action pieces and little set pieces like that. Little fun things like, we transwarped onto the ship, but I got stuck in the middle of like hardware of the ship.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't quite have it figured out.
Imagine if he got like
in the middle of a beam or something.
That would could have been a lot worse. Or like half in, half out of the glass. Like
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems with.
I guess it's like just enough empty space where it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to explain.
Well, that's the thing. They must get a reading on something like a void.
Mm-hmm.
Like water obviously don't pertain to it, but like
it's not like a solid metal.
Yeah,
so
it's not a solid piece of something.
Warp into something.
Imagine that too. Like, people who warp or get transported, they reform normally. He's reforming in water.
Oh yeah, so
his organs should just be filled with water.
He should just
he should be dead. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
His lungs just filled with water.
Yeah, because they just reform around the water that's already there. Yeah,
that would make sense.
Yeah, Scotty should be dead.
Yeah. Garbage movie.
Terrible.
So Scott,
where's the physics?
Kirk gets command of the Enterprise. They go and rescue Captain Pike. And
can we talk about the little bug that?
Also a little Wrath of Khan nod there.
Oh, okay.
Because they put these little bugs in Chekhov and Captain Terrell's ears, and it wraps around their brainstem, making them more susceptible to, which is the same exact thing that slug does.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't really show it going in, but like
it almost looks the same too. Like it's like a slug with like a pincer mouth. Yeah.
Looks like an earwig.
It was absolutely,
which is what the other things were in Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of fan service in that.
I just want to say that was absolutely gross.
Yeah, it is extremely gross.
Oh yeah.
So I forget what happens. They make it on. They destroy the red matter on Nero's ship to create a singularity within the huge mining vessel. And I forget, like, Spock and Kirk have reconciled at this point, and Kirk has command. He's like basically telling Spock, if you're compassionate, he might still work with us, because Spock's all about logic and everything, doesn't understand emotions. He's like, well, I'll extend a hand, see if he wants anything, and he's like, we're willing to save you if you want, and he's like, I would rather die than accept any ounce of help from Starfleet.
Oh yeah. What's this whole thing? I would rather watch Romulus be destroyed 1,000 times than accept. And he's like, "Okay, you got it." And
he's like, I'll oblige you, and they just blow him.
Yeah, that interaction is hilarious because he's like talking to him and offering up the help, and Spock goes, "Captain, what are you doing?" And he's like, show him a little compassion, logic. I thought you'd like that, Spock. And Spock just goes, "No, not this time." And he's like, all right.
Well, yeah, that's like the one thing where like Spock absolutely hates that enemy because he killed his entire homeworld.
And his mom.
Yeah, and his mother. Probably mostly his mother, because all the people. I mean,
he didn't really like.
He was even against the science science officers are like,
Yeah, that's another fun scene too.
he's like,
It's where they're like,
somehow-
oh, despite your disadvantage, you became you were accepted to the Academy of Science, and he's like, disadvantage? They're like,
Come
yeah,
on.
your human mother, you're half blood, and he's like, huh. Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
he just like walks out of there and they're like, you can't do that. And he's like, oh, I most certainly can.
I'll become the best Starfleet agent ever.
Yeah, that was.
And he does.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, Pike retires or is relieved of the Enterprise.
To become a vice admiral.
Yes, for Kirk, he takes the helm of the Enterprise. Do they go off in the end of that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Do they do the?
Yeah, no, they do the whole space, the final
I think
frontier.
that one character, like all the main cast, has one line in that, right? Maybe I'm thinking of things.
They all have a line, but it's
Yeah.
not that.
Oh, okay.
There is a Star Trek movie where the old cast actually all does say a part of that that mission
I just assumed
statement.
because I thought that had happened in this because I remember at the end of Star Trek.
No,
Into Darkness, I was
it's
like,
Beyond.
Oh, it must
They
be
all
Beyond.
say it in Beyond. Yeah.
Because I thought it was at the end of Star Trek Into Darkness, and I was like, oh, okay.
No.
Watching it yesterday, I was like, oh, maybe it isn't.
No, yeah, it is in Beyond. Yeah. Yep, I remember it now.
That's all I had to say about that one.
Yeah.
Unless you guys have anything else to say.
It's a good start. It's
a great origin.
Yeah.
I don't know if the original series ever has like an origin to all the characters.
They do. Pike was the captain at first, just like in that, and Spock was first officer, and then Kirk comes in later. It's about the same, but this is way more action heavy, and all that. So,
Want to rate it?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
I will second that 7
Yeah.
out of 10.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. It's if there's, I mean, I'll rewatch any of the Star Treks anytime, but like these are like special. This is that movie is what rekindled my love for Star Trek because I liked Star Trek as a kid, and then it just kind of fell off. I never really got back into it.
Yeah.
These are the movies that got me back into Star Trek in a big way.
Yeah. So I initially watched this one, and I think I watched that relatively after. But then I just never watched the third one. So this will rekindle that, hopefully. But this one I'm going to give... I really like this one. I'm going to give it a 7.5. I know the 0.5 doesn't seem like much. But...
It does in warp speed.
There you go.
That's true.
So...
And then our sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness, is basically just a retelling of The Wrath of Khan.
Not entirely.
Yeah,
But
I've never
it is
seen
the
it,
main
so I don't know.
plot. I
is.
think.
It is.
I'm not entirely familiar with The Wrath of Khan. But
Remember when JJ said that it wasn't Khan?
Yeah.
That Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't playing Khan, and then
That's
he
what
was
I
playing
remember
Khan.
about this was like leading up to it. Everybody's like, "Who's Cumberbatch playing?" Like,
John Harrison.
John Harrison.
they're like, "Who the hell's this guy?"
It was obvious even to me that he was going to be Khan.
I knew that too. I was like, oh,
It's
he's got to be playing Khan. Who the hell else would he be playing?
He is fantastic in this movie. By
He
the way.
is. He is. So there's one really strange part that I'll just preface this whole thing with. So the original Khan, played by Ricardo Montalban.
That's a name.
They had to switch. Oh, all right. So they explain it in a prequel comic that Khan is not Khan that you see in
He
the
looks
movie.
like an Indian man.
Yes,
Okay.
he does. When they revive him, I think it's either before they revive. It's before he goes into cryo or right after he's pulled out of cryo. They literally do I don't know if either of you know about the movie Die Another Day, James Bond.
Yes.
How the main dictator character literally undergoes like a whole facial reconstruction to look like a European
Yeah,
man.
the Korean guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the same exact fucking thing with Khan. So he ends up coming out looking like Benedict Cumberbatch. Because there was a lot of people who
he
were
even
like...
speaks like an Englishman.
Yeah.
Not an Indian man.
No. So, like, people were so confused. They're like...
Indian
they're
as
like,
in India?
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, as in India. But, like, people were so confused. They're like, why is Khan white? Why is he just like a...
I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
No, but they're like, why is he a Western European man? It's not that big a deal. Like, it really doesn't mean much to the story. It was just a confusing aspect to people, and then they explained it though in the comic that he actually was an Indian man that had the facial reconstruction and all that to like pass him off as John Harrison, because I'm sure in the history books, if they had him working at Starfleet because of the eugenics wars that he was exiled from Earth from, that somebody would be like, that guy looks a lot like Hitler.
So his race just lives an extraordinarily long time, on top of being extremely strong.
They are all superiorly genetic. The eugenics wars was fought on the principle that they were soldiers that after their use was up, literally took over like 4 continents and ruled over all of them until they were overthrown, captured, and then sent off.
And frozen in deep space.
Yes.
Well, they froze themselves, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't freeze themselves.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Khan said. They froze themselves so that they could wake up and things would be different.
No, not exactly.
Okay.
I don't remember him saying that. The way that I always heard him say it was they were exiled.
Well, he does
to the
that.
deep reaches of space because they were too dangerous to be kept on Earth.
Yeah, I
They're
feel like
literally-
I remember
they're literally
him saying
super
something
soldiers.
that they chose to be frozen.
Yeah.
I do remember something about
They're
that.
literally super soldiers. They're like a shit ton of There's 73 Captain Americas that took over
On top
half
of being
of Earth.
extremely brilliant as well.
Yes.
So I do have one question. So, if you didn't know, the ending of the climax of this movie where Kirk is inside the radiation core, it's swapped in the original movie where Spock is the one inside.
Yes.
I did know that.
Okay.
Yes.
Same lines
If
and
Spock
everything.
dies, how is he able to come back from the future to be in the first movie?
Okay, so what happens is, in Wrath of Khan, when Spock dies, they put his body in a torpedo. Again, there's another nod. They put his body in a torpedo. And they give him a whole Viking funeral, and they fire the torpedo out. And so what happened was, in their final battle with Khan detonates the Genesis device in the middle of a nebula. I mean, there are planetoids like around, but he detonates it in the middle of a nebula. So what happens is the shockwave just goes and like hits all these planetoids and everything. The planetoid that they launch Spock's casket, I'll call it a casket, at, was affected by the Genesis device. And the Genesis device takes a dead body and literally has a matrix in it that creates life. So it creates moisture in the air to rain, causes plant life to grow and all that, and it creates all sorts of different organisms on the planet. Spock's casket ends up there. He is brought back to life because of the Genesis device. So the Spock that we see is the resurrected Spock, but it's like there's 2 movies then where Spock doesn't remember who he is at all. He gets his memories back like at the end of the 4th movie, I think. Or maybe it's I think it's the end of the 3rd one, but I could be wrong. It could be like the beginning of the 4th one. But yeah, that's how Spock comes back to life after he dies.
Okay, because the entire time watching the movie yesterday, I was like, wait a second. Because I knew that that's how the original Wrath of Khan ended. I was like, how is he alive to come back to this timeline?
I mean, I knew he was in more movies after that. I didn't know how he came back though.
But I really love that scene with Kirk sacrificing himself for his crew, as we stated.
Which that
remiss
comes
to do.
back from the beginning when they saved Spock from the volcano that he's trying to renovate.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, "What would Spock do?" And Bones goes, "He'd let you die." Like, and then it flips itself because Kirk's like, "No, he wouldn't."
Mm-hmm.
And we find that out at the end of the movie because Spock's willing to open up that door to get Kirk out of there, and they're like, "No," they're like, "You can't."
Yeah.
They kind of blow their load a little bit early too with the opening. Whenever Spock's like, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few," it's like, oh, so you're just telling us that this is a Wrath of Khan movie at that point.
I mean, he says that a lot, like throughout the series. But yeah,
that's a huge.
That's the big line to be taken from Wrath of Khan. It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I mean, let's rewind a little bit and we'll talk.
I was talking to Mike about this yesterday. So obviously, like this whole set piece of like saving the planet. The funny thing is, like, Bones is on the planet because they couldn't think of any other reason to have him like be a part of the opening sequence. Like, Kirk and Bones are on the planet to distract the native life. Spock is going to go into the volcano. Uhura and Sulu are on the flying the shuttle, and Scotty and Chekhov are doing their own thing. But I was like, oh, you have to give Bones something to do. So I guess they just put him on the planet with
to go find the monster that they have to ride back to the ship, which was unnecessary anyway.
Yeah, I guess.
Why did they have to have that? Because they were just going to dive off the cliff.
Yeah,
into the water anyway.
It was just an excuse to have him on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, though. I just thought about that yesterday. I was like, there's no reason for him to be here. He's a chief medical officer. Why would he be in the field?
Yeah.
He's in the field a lot this movie, actually.
Yeah.
What did you take? I don't know, but they were bowing to it. And then I like that how after they see the Enterprise,
they just like completely did.
Yeah, they literally
throw it onto the ground while like somebody's like drawing an Enterprise in the dirt, and they're all just like bowing down to it.
Which my mind went almost. It went to Ancient Aliens. I don't know if you. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But like that just showed you that you can't really interpretate. Or you don't really know what some hieroglyphs are.
Yeah.
Because, like, if I would have saw that, I'd be like, that's a weird looking something. Like, I would have never thought it was a ship.
Look at that bird.
Yeah, right. Like, that's just where my brain went. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's why we don't know what they saw.
That's why we don't know what's going on here.
So that is the main conflict of the movie, I guess I should say, because after they return to Starfleet headquarters, Spock submits a form basically saying that they broke the Prime Directive.
Spock tells on Kirk.
Is the Prime Directive like a huge thing in the original series?
The Prime Directive is do not interfere with...
I know they harp on it like crazy in the Next Generation.
Yes, oh yeah, big time in Next Gen.
But I wasn't aware if this was like a huge thing they do in the original series.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they broke the Prime Directive, and Spock just like tells on them that they broke it, and it gets Kirk decommissioned because he lied on an official Starfleet transcript, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a terrorist attack on Starfleet headquarters.
In the archive.
Orchestrated by Khan, and an assembly of all the chief Starfleet officers is held, which he takes the opportunity to try and attempt to murder every single one of them, which is the launch pad for them to seek him out on Kronos, the Klingon homeworld, and they are given directive by the Admiral to do so, and we find out that he sabotaged them in order to start a Klingon-human war. Which I thought that's like a great plot.
Federation war.
Yeah, Federation.
It's not just humans.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Federation. The Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Weller's also great in this movie.
Peter Weller needs to be in more shit.
He's a great secondary.
I haven't seen Peter Weller in anything lately, and I'm just like, dude, come back, please.
Yeah, he's very good in this movie.
I thought that's who that was.
Yep, that was RoboCop.
Yeah.
Well, you should have known who it was. We just watched 2 movies with him in it.
Which his face is covered half the time.
Yeah, but that voice, you never forget that voice.
That damn smile.
Spit it out, son. Tomorrow's too late.
Yeah, he's just like a cold bastard.
He is.
Yeah.
He's willing to sacrifice an entire ship of Starfleet.
To start a war.
Yeah, literally to start a war. And he was almost willing to kill his daughter too, like until he obviously beams her aboard. Which is funny because he has like all this advanced technology that he got from Khan, and whenever they're warping away as a last ditch effort, Khan's like, he'll catch up to you, and that massive ship is just like following them through warp.
That's such a cool scene because like you just compared to the Enterprise like going through warp, you just hear this like of that giant ass ship catching up to them and then launching weapons at them while they're still in warp.
Yeah, mid warp. And
it knocks him out of warp.
They like leave the slipstream and like fucking fishtail through space.
That was pretty. It was good visual.
Oh, so I brought this up to Mike yesterday. Whenever they leave the slipstream of warp, they're like, "We're 200 kilometers away from Earth," and then after the detonation of the torpedoes of this, what's the larger ship's name?
The Vengeance.
The Vengeance. After the Vengeance is blown up by the torpedoes, they fall into Earth. It's like, you were 200 kilometers away. I know you're going to get sucked into the gravitational pull of Earth, but it's going to take you a while to get there.
No, I thought about that too, watching it last night. I was like, they're pretty far away. I don't think they're getting pulled in at this point. Like, unless there was, like, explosions happening on the hull that was like forcing them closer and closer, which could be. It's just a momentum. Maybe that was falling out of the slipstream, and their momentum was just carrying until they started to get pulled in.
Yeah, if they're going fast enough.
Which I mean, you're literally using the momentum coming out of warp with no engines. Like I feel like you're just going. Yeah, and you just sail across space still at a couple hundred miles an hour.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't think about that. So I guess I'll forgive that. But,
it's alright. Like some shit like that you don't really think of in the moment. You're like, and then you're like, wait a minute.
I really enjoy.
We as audience members aren't supposed to go. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me
mathematically pick this apart.
YouTube channels that are no fun do that for us.
Yeah.
They find no joy in anything.
Cinema sins. No, there are some that just do it comedically, and then there are some that are just assholes about it.
Well, you know.
Actually.
I really like Spock coming up with the idea of transporting the torpedoes and then detonating them on the Vengeance. Making Khan think that he kills his entire crew.
Also,
which obviously
that's the
too
other
ethical for him to do.
That's the great thing. The great thing that Spock is good at is exaggerating because he can't lie because he's a Vulcan. And he's like Vulcans do not lie. He's like, the torpedoes are yours, and then he hands him over his torpedoes, but they're his torpedoes, not his
people.
crewmates. And just blows them up right out of the... Where'd they transport them to? Near his warp core or something like that?
They were in that huge... huge, I guess you'd call it a...
It's like a hangar.
Yeah, hangar bay. Where Scotty... which... I was thinking about this. This was one great way of, making a story-relevant, humongous hangar be a comedic thing. It makes sense for this to be so wide because they're flying through space and they're going to be coming in there extremely hot. So it's like like hundreds of yards long, so that whenever they land, they're not like crashing and dying immediately
into the wall.
Yeah, and they use that as such a great comedic moment where Scotty's just like running through the hangar bay.
Yeah, he's like, give me a minute. Like, and he's just like sprinting down.
I was like, wow, that was a great usage. I mean, I don't know if that was like in the script or something, but if it wasn't, like that was a great comedy moment, just having him run.
And then he gets down to the end and he's like, well, the entry's
4 square meters across.
Yeah.
Oh, when he's telling them about it, because he's like, it's gonna be like jumping off
out of a moving car
across the street into your shot glass, and he's like, I've done that before. And then Khan like looks at him and he's like, well, it was vertical. And then he's talking about jumping onto the drill platform, and I was like, oh yeah, they did do that.
That space jump scene is my favorite scene in the entire movie.
It's a cool ass scene. Good. Yeah,
because they
put their Tron suits on and
they have to navigate through the debris of the Enterprise, which the Vengeance just blew up half of its hull. Mm-hmm. This is like floating through dead space, and then Kirk's HUD goes down because he's lucky that he doesn't die immediately whenever that fucking stone cracks his helmet. Yeah, and he's like so composed about that. And he's like, ah, shit. Like, they're like, what? Blind. And he's like, yeah, it's like, I can't see. My heads-up display is down. And then, like, they play that scene so well because Khan, you watch him, like, and he's like, I'm on my way, and he just goes, and, like, zips through, and then just gets, like, smacked by, like, a big-ass piece of debris. And they're like, oh, Khan's dead. Yeah, he gets hit hard, too. He does, like, a flip. Yeah. Like, the way that I'm surprised he was able to compose himself in order to... Yeah. But he's like, Kirk, I see you. You're at my 1 o'clock, 200 meters ahead of me, you know, or fall back. Yeah. And they managed to make it through that 4 square meter wide hole, which it's very exciting. At the same time, while the big dude is flying out of it. They're lucky they didn't smash into each other. Yeah, and be like the Flash and Superman colliding. What's that countdown? I think you're hearing things, mate. Oh, I'm so sorry. Starfleet? Are you Starfleet or private security? You look like private security. Show me your other hand.
You're the big man.
Hi, I'm working on maintenance. You're big. Yeah, Scotty's my favorite character. Scotty was really good in this movie. I love his arc too because he's like so dedicated to like not bringing on the torpedoes that he doesn't know what's inside them. Right. He's like, no signature. You know, absolutely not. No signature. And then Kirk is like, because he's on a revenge mission this time, as where Spock was on the revenge mission in the first movie, because Captain Pike was killed by Khan. So he's on the revenge mission. He's like, I'm going to do anything that it takes. You know, I'm going to blow him out of the stars, basically. Yeah. He's like, sign for the torpedoes. And he's like, no, do you accept my resignation or not? He's like, okay. Goodbye. Yeah. He's like willing to like part with one of his dear friends in order to fucking kill him. Yeah. And then whenever he calls him back, he calls him at the bar while he's like drinking with Wee Man, and they're both like drinking, and then he's talking to him, and he's like, I need you to go check out these coordinates, and he gives him the coordinates, and he's like, did you write it down? And he's like, what do you think? I can't remember 4 bloody numbers. And he's like, what was the third one? Then he's like talking to him. He's like. Scotty, for what it's worth, you know, you might have been right about those torpedoes. And he's like, well, I'll consider that an apology, and I will consider that an apology. And he says something, he's like, you made me quit, and like hangs it up, and he goes, I'm not doing any favors for him. And then, like, Wee Man's just looking at him, and he goes, no! Okay, alright. Like, get up and go.
Get down!
Get down! Yeah. And then, the big climax. Obviously, Kirk sacrifices himself, and Spock goes to take his revenge. And nearly kills Khan. Yeah, barely kills him. Which they could have killed him, but because they only needed his blood, which they could have still got. Yeah, so that's what I wanted.
That's what I was wondering, if his blood had to be like active.
Probably. So that's what I wanted to talk about, was that whole scene where like Kirk's talking to Khan about jumping onto the Vengeance, and like it's real serious, and then he goes,
Bones, what are you doing with that Tribble?
Oh yeah.
Like, it was just, like, out of left field. And he's like, Tribble's dead. He's like, I'm injecting it with Khan's platelets.
I mean, it makes sense as Bones' character would
Yeah.
do that, because...
But it was just, like, in that moment, like, why the hell is he just like, yeah, let's see what this does? You know, like, it's a very tense moment. Like, the Enterprise is half blown up, and Bones is just over there
That's true.
injecting blood into a goddamn
That's
Tribble.
very true. He would be not caring about the Tribble.
He'd be inundated with fucking people in the
tons
med
of
bay.
people that
Yeah.
just, like, crack
That's
their
true.
head after
Yeah.
falling 2 stories.
Yeah, but instead he's over there just injecting blood into a Tribble.
I guess that's... I mean, they needed to set it up for, obviously, reviving Kirk, but...
What
That
gives
is
him
one
that
scene that
idea?
doesn't...
What gives him that idea?
Con cells are
Because-
remarkably regenerative.
And when they're
He catches that, so
yeah.
he experiences.
Yeah, so he injected it, and then later on, whenever they have Kirk's body in the med bay, Bones goes and like sits down.
By the way,
and
it took the
Tribble is
Tribble,
like, yeah, that Tribble took like what, like an hour or two
hour
to like
plus to revive.
regenerate. Yeah,
Why wasn't Attack of the Tribbles the third movie?
kind of was when you think about it.
Okay.
Really overgrown Tribbles.
I don't get that because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like this movie a lot. I think it's extremely well written too. I mean, the reveal aside, everybody knowing that Benedict Cumberbatch is Khan, I think it works well, even if you do know that, because
Yeah. I mean, I knew
he
that.
surrenders because he tells them that they have, his crew essentially in the torpedoes. So he's like, "Oh, I surrender," and then he tells Kirk,
Oh, that was the other thing that I wanted to bring up too about that whole, him being on Kronos and surrendering and all that, because he's literally trying to get Admiral Marcus killed by luring everyone to Kronos, but he inadvertently, because of the torpedoes having the shift in the polarity of the warp core, they literally end up in the Kobayashi Maru scenario because they're stranded on the edge of Klingon space, which is what that's the Kobayashi Maru. You, like in the test, you have to go to the edge of Klingon space to a ship that's stranded that's about to get attacked by Klingons.
Right. Okay.
"Oh, so the Vengeance showing up."
The Vengeance showing up is
the Kobayashi Maru scenario.
Yes.
Oh, that's kind of
Yes.
neat. Except he's the
he's
perpetrator of it.
the bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's the perpetrator of it. He sabotaged their warp core.
exactly.
And
To strand
Khan's like, "Oh, kind of strange that we can't move right now. Kind of like you have a damaged warp core.
Yeah.
I wonder why that is." He basically just like playing into deception into Kirk. It's like, he did this for a reason. He wanted to start a war. I think it's very, very well written.
Yeah.
And Khan, like, there's moments in the movie where you're like, is Khan really the bad guy?
I mean,
And then you're like, he is, but he also is not wrong because Marcus is a psychopath who's trying to literally start a war so he can continue to engineer these giant ships that will just destroy anything in their path.
Yeah, it's like the
He's
only
trying to
ship-
militarize the Federation.
Yeah.
Khan is the bad guy in a way that a genicist is the bad guy. He's a fucking... He commits genocide on people.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely does.
Yeah.
And like it just like I get that, like, we were talking about the Klingons and Starfleet and the Federation in general are like Cold War tensions, like at all times, and that's even in the movies, like the older movies, is the Klingons are like constantly at this Cold War tension, and they'll always pull these little shit schemes that end up killing somebody or something. It doesn't start a war, but it's like damn close. Like, they kill Kirk's son in the third Star Trek, and then, like, that comes back later when somebody frames... Another Klingon general frames Kirk for killing their ambassador to Starfleet when actually they had Starfleet officers paid to do it. and they get Kirk and Bones, arrested and taken to the Klingon prison planet and tried for the murder of that ambassador. And the damning piece of evidence is it's a captain's log where he says he doesn't trust Klingons and he'll never forgive them for killing his son. So they're like, string him up. He doesn't like Klingons. Guess he did it,
I will say that the bit on Klingon, whenever they have, they're fighting the Klingons, that's, probably my least favorite part of the movie.
I like that.
It's not bad.
I like the Kronos fight.
But it's just okay, whatever. I'm more interested in Khan as a character. I just want to see more of him.
I don't know. Him killing him was pretty...
Him one-arming that giant gun, blasting birds of prey out of the sky while he's firing a rifle.
I'm not gonna lie. I like the character interaction, especially whenever Khan is in the holding cell on the Enterprise. That's that, and whenever they're flying through space are probably my two favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. How does that glass work?
Oh, I don't know. That's
pretty
neat.
Cell,
yeah, he's
right? Yeah, you could just move that anywhere. And then you could hear him as clear as day, when he's talking to Khan. It's just
I assume it was a speaker almost.
Oh, I assume too as well.
But yeah, the whole thing you move, I don't know.
How does that work? I was trying to wrap my mind around that. I'm like,
is it more of a force field maybe?
Maybe,
that's possible.
Because they do have force fields.
And only somebody on the outside can control it.
Yeah, if any of the ship
get us out of here now.
Yeah, like a ship's hull, if it gets damaged and blown out, there's usually a shield that will start to envelop it, so that if people are still hanging on for dear life, trying not to get sucked out once it depressurizes.
That's a scene that JJ loves too. Is a hull breach and some guy holding onto a railing
and then somebody gets out. And then all 6 people get sucked out. Yeah.
Yeah, he loves that one.
That's in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Oh no, does he do it in Star Wars?
I think so.
I wouldn't
be surprised.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean,
I can't remember specifically, but I think so.
It's pretty neat, but it's you're gonna do it for the 10th time? Okay.
Well, I guess
that especially happens in the third one, a lot in the third one.
I guess the hull breach I'm thinking of was actually episode 8, so I don't know. Maybe he doesn't do it in Star Wars.
Who knows?
He probably tapped Ryan on the shoulder and was you should do a
hey,
hull
put
breach.
this in there so I don't get blamed for it.
He's scratching. He's you should do a hull breach.
I don't think I have much else to say.
I don't either. Benedict Cumberbatch. Good Khan.
He's very good in this movie.
Good Khan. Ricardo Montalban, though, is the OG Khan. You're never going to beat him. And I highly recommend if you guys watch that movie.
My favorite Ricardo Montalban character is Senior from Kim Possible.
Oh my god, he was him. Wow.
Judy Cortez's grandfather. From
yeah.
I've never seen
with his moon boots.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ever.
You just gave me an idea. We good for ratings?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I almost went 8.5 because I really like this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stick with 8. Yeah. Everything I said. The score is great. I talked to Aaron about this earlier. But in scenes where they go into the bridge and you hear the bleep, 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 that's a little annoying. But I'll forgive it just because it's every now and then. But acting is great as always. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs way up.
Crazy
good.
Crazy good.
I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. It is. I like this movie a lot more than I do the first one, just because Khan. That's before these 2 movies came out. My knowledge was a couple TNG episodes and Wrath of Khan, because that was the one that we read from the movie store every Saturday night when I would watch it. So that's all I remembered was oh, Khan, he's a big part of this whole thing. So
yeah.
I like this more because it takes me back to that knowledge of Star Trek. And Wrath of Khan is my favorite original Star Trek movie. So yeah, 7.5.
I'm going to go with an 8 as well as what Sean said. I do like this, I guess, a little bit better than the first one. I don't remember what. I don't know. as we were talking about, I'm like, yeah, I guess I do like this one better. Like, there's just more action, I think. Yeah, and Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, he's a doctor.
He's a doctor. He's also Sherlock.
I forget what he said. Yeah, I forget what he said in the movie, and I'm like, I remember I turned to you guys last night. I was like, he's a doctor.
He's a doctor.
Maybe it's because it was that scene, I think, whenever that guy takes his blood and just gives it to his daughter. Or
right,
whatever.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then commits a terrorist
That
attack.
joke works in two ways, because the one actor's from Doctor Who. So
That was a funny scene, too. Like, when you think about the scene, when he says, he's like, I can save your daughter. And he turns around and he goes, what did you say? And then he said, I could save her. And he goes, who are you? And then the camera comes back and does this like slow track on his face where he doesn't respond.
I think that's where I said it.
They just do this like slow track on his face and then they cut.
That's when I said it. I was like, he's a doctor.
Because I was like thinking about that and I was like, okay, in that situation, like he's not gonna stand there and just like stare at this guy for like 10 seconds before he introduces himself.
Wait for it.
Well,
gotta have that score build its way up.
Well, there you have it. Our discussion of Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness in the books. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, well, it would have been nothing without the Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I would never thought of these movies.
Well, we have another recommendation coming down the pipe for us.
Oh shit, yeah we do, don't we?
You weren't prepared, right?
I was not prepared. We're doing this a week early, so I'm like, uh-oh. Like, I literally just realized that and went, oh, it's me! I was like, well, okay. Well, luckily for you guys, I do have 2 more movies in mind.
Okay.
And I'm going to hit you guys with The Fugitive and U.S. Marshals.
Oh my god, I love you.
Do you?
I fucking love those movies.
They're great!
They're amazing!
I can't wait to talk about them.
Oh my god.
Classics.
I'm just mad that I didn't think of that.
I actually was thinking, because my dad and I were talking about movies that we...
And I actually own those, so...
So do I. we were talking about movies that no matter what part they're at on TV or whatever, stop and watch it.
Oh,
That's one on my dad and I's list.
I've watched those movies probably hundreds of times.
Yep, I probably have too. Yep. So...
Because I love Tommy Lee Jones, like, you know,
oh, yeah.
Men in Black, like, I loved that movie as a kid, so when I found he was in those movies, I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to watch these again.
Wow.
All right. If you don't want to be spoiled for The Fugitive and U.S. Marshal, make sure to watch it before next episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness. We sure enjoyed having it. Make sure to like and subscribe, comment what you think down below, and we will catch you guys next time. Live long and prosper.
Damn it!